All right, everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling leading young, inexperienced teams. And get this, our main source material. A podcast script literally titled, Strategies for Leading Young, Inexperienced Teams. No, kind of meta, right? But honestly, it's got some really solid advice, so let's
Yeah.
jump right in.
Yeah. It's a topic full of both, challenges and rewards. Definitely.
For sure. One thing that really stood out to me in this script is how vital clear communication is for these teams starting out. I mean, it's super important to have those expectations laid out really clearly.
That's where the idea of a mental model is so important, right? And it's not some complicated thing, really. It's just making sure everyone is on the same page, picturing the same end goal. It's like, imagine if you're building a house and every person on the construction crew has a different blueprint. Total chaos. But when everyone understands the plan and the process and how they fit in, things go so much smoother.
Exactly. It's like giving them that framework so they know where their piece fits into the big picture. And the script also talks about how important clear processes are, even for simple things like how to submit work, what communication channels to use, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. For someone with more experience, it might seem obvious. But for someone new to all this, those unspoken rules can really trip them up.
Totally. It's like,
Yeah.
think of it like learning a new language. You need to know the vocabulary, the grammar, before you can actually speak,
Hmm.
right? And for young teams, those processes are like the grammar of their work. Without them, it's just a jumble.
Exactly. And speaking of things that can be tricky, let's talk deadlines. It's so easy to accidentally overload a young, enthusiastic team. They're usually so eager to take on a lot.
Right, right. They have so much energy.
Yeah, and that's where setting those realistic deadlines is super important. And it's not just about the amount of work, it's also that learning curve. They might be talented and motivated, but they are still learning, so you got to factor that in.
So we've got clear communication, solid processes, and realistic deadlines. What else does the script highlight as super important for leading these teams?
Well, it emphasizes regular check-ins and feedback. It's like a pit stop during a race, you know? You got to refuel, assess, maybe make some adjustments before you go back out there.
And the script specifically mentions this sandwich method for giving feedback. Start with something positive, then the constructive criticism, then end on another positive note.
Yeah. Some people might think it's a little cheesy, but honestly, it can be really effective, especially with younger team members who, might be less confident and more sensitive to criticism.
It's about that balance between helping them grow and also keeping their confidence up.
That's it. And it's not only correcting mistakes, it's about recognizing and celebrating their successes too. Positive reinforcement, it goes a long way, especially with young professionals.
Right, right, absolutely. And speaking of mistakes, the script talks about how important it is to make it okay to mess up, you know.
Yeah.
Turn it into a learning opportunity. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. That's how we learn and grow, right?
Totally. And as a leader, you have to model that attitude.
Yeah.
If you can openly admit your own slip-ups, it makes it so much easier for your team to do the same. Like creates a safe space where they feel comfortable taking risks and learning from those experiences.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I remember this one time.
Oh, I'm all ears. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I was working on this big presentation for like a potential client. Right?
Yeah.
I put so much work into it, hours and hours, made sure all the data was perfect, the visuals were good, the whole thing. I was feeling pretty good about it. Sent it off to my boss for review and totally forgot to attach the actual presentation file.
Oh, no, I've totally been there. It's crazy how your brain can just skip a step when you're stressed.
I know, right? Total facepalm moment. I was so embarrassed when I realized. But the thing is, my boss, she didn't freak out or anything. She just laughed and said, hey, it happens. Just resend it with the file and we'll move on. It really showed me that it's not the end of the world to make a mistake. You just got to own it and learn from it.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of response from a leader, it can make such a difference in how the team sees mistakes. It shows them that it's okay to mess up. As long as you get back up and keep going, it's not about being perfect. It's about learning and getting better.
Totally. Okay, so moving on from those inevitable slip-ups, the script also talks about delegation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it can be tempting to just do everything yourself, especially with a less experienced team. Like sometimes it just feels easier and faster, right?
Right.
But the script makes a really good point about how delegation isn't just about getting tasks off your plate. It's about giving your team members a chance to grow and feel empowered.
It is, yeah. It's about that ownership and accountability. And it's important to remember that delegation isn't just throwing stuff over the fence and hoping for the best. You got to give them the support, resources, guidance. Set them up for success.
So what would be a good example of a task to delegate to a younger team member, someone with less experience?
Well, it really depends on the person and their skills, of course. But something like, I don't know, research or data analysis could be good to start with. It lets them work on their analytical skills while also contributing to the project. Or if they're good at writing, maybe give them some of the content creation for a social media campaign or something.
Right, something that lets them build skills but still has that safety net.
Yeah,
And it goes back to those clear processes we were talking about before. Give them a framework, how to approach the task, what's expected, all that.
for sure. It's about setting them up to succeed, not to fail, right? And then, of course, you give feedback throughout the process, not just at the end.
That's where those check-ins are so helpful. Speaking of tapping into those individual strengths, the script uses this really interesting basketball analogy. Like, you wouldn't put your star point guard in charge of defending the tallest center, right? It's about putting people in positions where they can shine and use their unique talents.
It is. And that's true not just for individual tasks, but for the whole team, really. Recognizing and using those individual strengths, that's key for building a good team that works well together. It's about making sure everyone feels like they have an important role to play, that they're all part of the puzzle.
Yeah, like building that dream team. Like in sports, you need different players with different skills to win. And it's not just about technical skills either. Maybe someone's really good at coming up with creative ideas, or they're super organized, or maybe they're just really good at keeping everyone's spirits up, which, let's be real, is a huge asset to any team.
Absolutely. And that ties into the script's emphasis on teamwork, building that sense of camaraderie. It can't just be a bunch of talented people working on their own. You have to build that shared purpose, that feeling of being in it together.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Exactly. And that's where things like team building activities, celebrating successes, addressing conflicts quickly, all of that comes in.
Speaking of team building activities, we used to do this hilarious one at my old job called the Marshmallow Challenge.
Oh, I've heard of that. What is it? Like, what do you do?
So basically, you get some spaghetti, tape, string, and a marshmallow. And you have to build the tallest structure you can in like a limited amount of time. It's amazing how quickly people start problem solving. And it always ends in a ton of laughter and like a surprising amount of teamwork.
That sounds like a fun way to get people thinking outside the box and working together in a different way.
It was. It really showed that sometimes the best way to learn and grow is to just jump in and try things, even if you make some mistakes along the way.
I agree. And speaking of mistakes, it's important to remember that no team is perfect. And, disagreements are bound to happen. It's really about how you, as the leader, handle those conflicts. The script really emphasizes addressing things right away instead of letting them fester.
It's like if you have a tiny crack in a bridge.
Yeah.
Right. If you ignore it, it's going to become a huge problem eventually. But if you fix it early on, it's much easier to deal with.
Exactly. Exactly. You want to stop those little disagreements from turning into big blowouts that can, really hurt the team's morale and how productive they are. And the script suggests encouraging open communication and really listening to each other is so important for working through these conflicts. It's about creating that space where people feel safe to voice their concerns and can work together to find solutions.
Right. It's about building that culture of respect, even when people disagree.
Yeah, and sometimes conflict can even be a good thing. It can spark new ideas and better solutions if it's handled well.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about leading these young, inexperienced teams. Clear communication, setting realistic expectations, feedback, delegation, using people's strengths, encouraging teamwork. It's a lot, right?
It is.
But the script really boils it all down to one main idea: leading by example.
That's it. Your actions speak so much louder than words. Young team members, they're always watching and learning from how you act, whether you realize it or not.
So it's not enough to just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk too, right?
Exactly. You have to live those values you want your team to have. If you want them to be proactive, you got to be proactive. If you want them to be open to feedback, you have to be open to feedback. It all starts with you as the leader.
Makes sense. It's like that saying, actions speak louder than words. And you know what? It makes me think about this manager I had early in my career. She was amazing. So passionate, always willing to help, and she treated everyone with respect no matter how much experience they had. I learned so much just from watching her, how she interacted with the team, how she dealt with different situations.
That's a perfect example of how powerful it is to learn by watching someone. We don't always realize how much our actions influence others, especially those who are just starting out.
It's like we're all shaping the next generation of leaders, whether we
Right.
mean to or not, so we better make sure we're setting a good example.
That's the truth. And that brings us to what it's all about, leading these young teams, helping them build their skills, become more confident, and eventually become the leaders of your organization and even beyond. It's about empowering them to take charge, contribute their own ideas, and shape the future, really.
It sounds like the big takeaway here is that it's not just about checking things off a list. It's about investing in your team's future and, in a way, the future of your company.
I think that's right. That's what makes leading these teams so challenging, but also so rewarding. It's about seeing that potential, those aha moments, and watching them grow into these confident professionals.
So for everyone out there who's leading or getting ready to lead a team of these bright young folks, remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient, be supportive, be open to learning alongside them, and most importantly, lead by example.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. How can you create an environment where those young team members feel valued and supported, but also feel like they can challenge things, bring new ideas, and really make a difference? It's something to think about as you go on this leadership journey.
That's a fantastic question. And if you have any thoughts on that or your own stories and advice on leading young teams, we'd love to hear them. Share your insights with us on social media using the episode hashtag. And until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep leading with purpose.